Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel if you're a returning viewer. Um, yeah, just airing my thoughts and musings on the state of the UK at the moment. Now, I'll preface this by saying I'm no political pundit or expert at all. I mean, my forte is not in understanding politics or the economy and stuff like that. I have a very basic grasp of it, but something that I think is becoming more and more glaringly apparent, not just in the UK, but in the West in general, is this feeling of, are we just completely hurtling off a cliff at this point? As the train all but completely derailed the tracks, so to speak. And I'm an avid watcher of YouTube. I've said this in other videos, I think, but I spend a lot of time online, especially as I'm not working at the moment. And this kind of ties into what I'm talking about here, is I'm at that almost classic crossroads in life where I'm currently 50, going to be 51 this September. Not married, no dependents, no siblings, no immediate family. What family I do have are abroad. And work and job wise, I'm still in the same situation, which I talked about in previous videos, which is I'm currently still looking for work. It's now on month 4. So it would have been November last year. So yeah, we're already going into April, so it's going to be going on 5 months. Although there actually have been a few jobs I've been able to apply for as of late. I think I've applied for about 9 or 10 in the last couple of weeks, as opposed to about 3 or 4 to 2-3 weeks before. I'm still at that stage where I haven't had an interview now for a while. It's been about 3-4 weeks since I had my last one. And, you're applying and you hardly ever hear back half the time, and then you're having to chase up and do all that usual shit. So, but yeah, it's at the stage now where, because I live in private accommodation, private rent, and that's going to be going up again this year. And I know I've mentioned this in other videos about how the rent in my place goes up and up each year, and because it's within the 5% cap, the landlord's well within his rights. But my argument is that I've been there for, it'll be 5 years now this July, and I've been an excellent tenant. I look after the place. I've never defaulted once on a payment. He's never had an ounce of trouble out of me. Would it be too extreme to ask if he could cap it for at least a couple of years, or maybe even reduce it slightly instead of it going up £30-40 each year? But all I've had done is I had it go up £20 instead of £40. But so I'm at this point where I've been mulling it over for a long time. Although technically it has been probably about 2 years now since I've been thinking this. But it's this thing of, well, okay, if the UK is quote unquote finished, then where does one go? Because I'd be devil's advocate as usual here and say there are things about the UK that definitely need improving. Of course, we have our issues, but it also massively depends where you live in the UK. And because I live in this part of the middle of the country, without giving it away too much, but where I am, there's a lovely mixture of rural and towny. Of someone like me who's not a city person at all, and someone who came from Southend back in Essex, where it was already overcrowded and overpopulated, and the crime rate was already high, and now it's like 10x that. I can't do city living. It's not for me. So places like London or Birmingham or Nottingham or Wolverhampton, they're all out of the question. I would rather, it's crazy, I would rather live somewhere completely rural than somewhere like that, except this brings me on to the point of, if it's really tough to get a job at the moment, then what's the thing you hear online a lot is just be an entrepreneur, just have side hustles. It's like, mate, I haven't even got a main hustle at the moment, So ideally, I would love to be able to have the ability to work for myself or work from home, especially in some kind of perhaps digital format, which is one of the reasons why I'm branching out on YouTube. Now, I have no illusions. I don't expect to suddenly be making money off this at all. I mean, I barely get many views, and I know there's got to be a lot of work put into it, but I think it's becoming increasingly apparent that, with the job market being the way it is, also the fact that yet again someone I know has been laid off. It's like the third person I know that's been laid off in so many months, that's been at their place for years, thought they had about as much just job security as you're going to get, but we all know job security is an illusion now. And now they're back on the scrap heap. And these are all people that have particular skills and qualifications more than I do. I'm just like an average Joe. My background is in office, and one of the things I'm trying to do at the moment is there's e-learning courses and courses online, especially for people who aren't working. So although it's not something I'm majorly interested in, I'm actually looking into doing a basic accountancy bookkeeping course, because some of the jobs that I've applied for that are admin related, and my background is clerical sort of admin support, if I understood things like QuickBooks, for example, or Xero, that's come up in a couple of jobs recently. So that's something I'd like to do once I've done this basic bookkeeping accountancy course. I think it would at least help get my foot on the ladder a bit more. And it's also something that, again, can be a digital skill, because it's something that I could either do from home or a hybrid. But also, if I ever went into business for myself, learning basic bookkeeping and accountancy is absolutely an invaluable skill. So also from the my work coach from the DWP, when I have to have my appointments every couple of weeks, I sort of agreed that I'd be looking into doing something to try and broaden my job skills, which I'm all for. I'm totally for that. I'm also learning to do a bit more with intermediate Excel, because I only have basic Excel usage, and that's something that I'm just inquiring about at the moment, to do a half-day course at a nearby college. So yeah, the idea is I want to be able to have some sort of transferable skill, or some sort of skill involving using computers, something I can do from home, so that either I can try and work for somebody, perhaps again remote, fully remote, maybe hybrid, or ultimately and ideally work for myself. And this ties into the topic about, with the UK. Even if I was to leave the UK, and believe me, I've mulled this question over so many times of late. I mean, especially the last, I would say, 6 months, is something that really has, come up a lot. Sometimes in conversations with people, but also just in my own thoughts. And I think it's very idealistic and whatnot to say, oh yeah, it'd be great to just move abroad and be a digital nomad, whatever. But it depends where you're moving to, the language barrier. I mean, just take the whole digital nomad thing and all that out of the equation. Even if you were just to want to move and look for a job, first of all, you've got to find somewhere where either you're going to be able to learn the language, or if it's enough that your English, there's enough English speaking, so maybe some parts of Europe. But then you still have the cost of moving in the first place. It's not just a case of just upping and leaving, and you need money to move. For starters, you need somewhere secure to be moving to. And if you're working, if you've got a job lined up, again, nothing's guaranteed, but it's got to be at least secure enough that you know that if you do move, if it all goes tits up with a job, that you've at least got some kind of emergency, and I'm a big proponent of this, having some kind of emergency money to fall back on. Well, as I alluded to in my other video, I'm currently using what's left of my emergency money to help keep my head above water. And I've only currently got maybe a few months, 3-4 months tops of that. So then it comes back to, well, how do I top my emergency money up? Well, by having a job, but I don't have a job at the moment. So I'm having to use that to help keep my head afloat. And it's obviously a big catch-22. Another one is driving at the moment. I've should by rights have my test in a couple of weeks, except that I still need a few more lessons, but I can't get lessons because I'm not working at the moment. So again, it's a kind of almost endless loop of, well, you need money to have lessons, but you need a job or some sort of income coming in, and I don't. So it's a matter of the totem pole of priorities, as I call it. So for me, rent, bills, food, the absolute basic essentials are top. It's just that simple. Driving and everything else is like 3 or 4, 5th down the list. Now, granted, driving is something I know that would help expand my horizons as far as working. I'm fully aware of that. But like I just mentioned, I'm still going to have money to have lessons. So I, for one, am personally not unhappy about staying here where I am in this part of the UK. I don't have some particular wanderlust in me. I'm not someone that's, you know, ever been interested in constantly traveling or constantly place hopping. That's never been me. I'm quite a rootsy person. Once I've found somewhere that I want to stay, I'm more than happy to do that. And the same goes for work. But yeah, again, the question really has come up a lot of the times is, you know, maybe I should look at, or at least have the idea of moving as a distinct possibility. But I just don't see from a pragmatic point of view that until I have my money in place, it's just not as simple as that. Now, people, any of you watching out there, if you're in a position where you do have the money behind you and you can move, you know, I'd be interested to hear from people. Are you somebody that has moved? Maybe you're in the process of doing it now. Maybe you're from the UK and you've moved somewhere else and you're living somewhere in Europe or maybe somewhere further afield. I'd love to hear what your experiences have been like. You know, is it working out for you? Has it not worked out for you? Or are you perhaps somebody that's thinking of returning back to the UK? I would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences, because I find it, you know, very fascinating anyway. But I will just say this, as far as moving, even taking outside of the UK, you know, I like the idea of perhaps moving somewhere like Wales, like Pembrokeshire, because I've visited a few times and I'm really a big fan of Wales. And the thing with Wales is, here where I live, you've got beautiful scenic splendour and countryside and stuff like that. But Wales, you've also got a lot of coastal spots and sort of coastal places are my happy spaces, as I say. So I would love the idea of living somewhere like there, or maybe somewhere other parts of the country, like, I don't know, maybe Dorset would be another one. You know, there are so many, you know, the UK gets shit on, but there are so many nice places in the UK. And yeah, for all the people complaining that, you know, the UK is horrible and it's a shithole and all that, well, if you live in areas, and there's areas not too far from me that could be described as that, but you know, there are some nice spots in the UK, and I don't totally write the place off. You know, I was born here, I'll probably die here, and I have no real, you know, there's nothing particularly pressing or urgent that I feel like I need to up sticks and everything, because again, everything in life is trade-offs. So for all the trade-offs of moving abroad or moving somewhere in Europe, you've still got other things to consider. And I think some people kind of get lost in the fantasy of just like, oh, just up and leave. And I read as many comments of people that have moved somewhere and it's worked out for them. And I've also read comments of people who have like, well, do you know what? It didn't work out. Or now I'm stuck. And this is why I said I'd love to hear from anybody out there that's maybe gone abroad or maybe moved somewhere else in Europe and it is working out. But anyway, I don't want to get the video to go on too long. So thanks for watching as always, guys. And yeah, I'd love to hear your comments and what you think. And, you know, do you think the UK is finished, or do you think that, just like with, you know, past history, that we'll always go through major turmoil and tribulations? I mean, I've lived through a few recessions now. There was a main one in the late 80s, which I was at school, so it didn't affect me personally, but it affected my late parents at the time. And then we had one from, I think, 92 to 93. We had on for about a year or so. That was in my first job, and I know it affected how, I worked in an electrical shop at the time, and I distinctly remember how it affected in sales, because obviously people weren't spending money as much, kind of like now with the, you know, insane inflation and everything. The money's not going back into the economy. So there's always going to be one major upheaval, I think, every 10 years, you could argue. The credit crunch, the financial crisis, that definitely affected me at the time. I mean, that was a job I was in for 4 years, and the company ended up going under and I got made redundant. So that definitely affected me, as it did a lot of people. So there's always going to be some major turmoil happening. But, you know, in the case of people wanting to flee the country, is it again, it's going to be the answer for some people, maybe not for others. But anyway, that's the end of the video for now. Thanks for watching again, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.